Let me ask you something. If you had unlimited money, unlimited time, and zero deadlines, would you actually create something great? Pause. Probably not. Because total freedom doesn't create momentum, it creates paralysis. When everything is possible, nothing gets chosen. That's why the best thinkers, builders, and designers do something counterintuitive. They don't start with possibilities, they start with constraints. Welcome to Constraints First Design, the skill of thinking inside the box and turning that box into your creative superpower. Most people believe this: if I just had more time, more money, more support, then I could do something great. But in reality, the opposite is often true. Constraints do powerful things. They force clarity. They trigger creativity. They kill procrastination. They guide decision-making. When options shrink, focus sharpens. Constraints are not blockers. They're shape makers. They define the edges of the problem. And once the box is clear, your brain stops wandering and starts building. When you define your limits, time, resources, scope, energy, you don't reduce creativity, you unlock it. Because creativity doesn't come from endless freedom, it comes from solving interesting problems within clear boundaries. That's the power of constraints-first design. And once you learn to use limits this way, pressure stops feeling like an enemy and starts feeling like direction. Why did TikTok blow up? Not because it gave creators more freedom, but because it gave them less time. That 60-second limit did something powerful. It forced clarity. It made videos easier to share. It lowered the effort barrier to create. And it sparked entirely new storytelling styles. Creativity didn't thrive despite the constraint. It thrived because of it. Now, imagine you're building a student campaign, launching a project, or planning a group event. And here are your limits. A $10,000 budget, 3 weeks, 2 team members, and access to just email and WhatsApp. At that point, most people say, we can't do much. But constraints-first thinkers ask a different question. Given these limits, what's the smartest move we can make? That question changes everything. Suddenly, things simplify. You prioritize. You stop over-designing. You execute faster. And that's where strong ideas come from. Not from abundance, but from focus. Constraints do a few important things. They reduce choice overload. Too many options lead to decision fatigue. They force focus. You stop trying to do everything at once. They trigger unconventional thinking. You look for workarounds, shortcuts, and clever hacks. And they kill perfectionism. You stop waiting for ideal and ship with what you have. Think of constraints like the rules of a game. Without rules, there's no challenge, no strategy, no fun, just chaos. Here's how to use constraints-first design deliberately. Step 1, define the outcome. What are you trying to accomplish? For example, organize a career prep workshop for 30 students. Step 2, list your hard constraints: time, budget, tools, space, people. For example, a $500 budget, no projector, 1 weekend. Ask yourself, what's the simplest version of this? What can we do given these limits? Can the constraint become part of the idea? When you do this, the box stops feeling like a restriction and starts acting like direction. Constraints don't shrink your thinking, they sharpen it. And once you learn to design this way, pressure stops being something you fight and becomes something you use. Let's walk through a scenario. You're tasked with hosting a student innovation showcase. Here are the constraints: no money, a 5-day deadline, it must be virtual, and you have a team of 2. At first glance, that sounds impossible. But instead of asking, how do we make this bigger? Ask a better question. What's the most effective event we could design inside this box? Now ideas start to appear. A Zoom pitch night, voting through Google Forms. Judges pulled from older students or alumni, rewards like shoutouts, mentorship, or internship referrals. promotion through WhatsApp and Instagram stories. No fancy tech, no budget, but real impact. That's constraint-driven innovation. Now let's push this even further. Try deliberately removing a resource. No slides allowed, only visuals, presentations under 3 minutes. No talking, only storytelling. These are called anti-resources, artificial limits that force your brain to work harder and smarter. Filmmakers do this. Product designers do this. Now, so can you. Remember this mantra: don't wait for more, design with less. Innovation doesn't come from luxury, it comes from limits. So here's your challenge. Pick one real task this week: a school assignment, a group project, a content idea, a new plan. Now do 3 things. List the hard constraints, shrink the time, budget, or tool options even further, and create inside that limit. Then test it, post it, share it, put it into the world. You'll notice something unexpected: relief, momentum, forward motion. You'll stop saying, "I can't do this because I don't have X," and start saying, "Given my limits, what's the best version I can create?" That's the mindset shift. Constraints-first thinkers aren't just creative. They're resourceful, they're fast, and they're hard to stop. In the next video, we'll talk about second-order thinking, seeing the consequences after the consequences. That's where your problem-solving starts to compound over time. Let's keep going. Before you move on, pause. Pick one task you've been postponing. Write down its constraints. Then intentionally remove one more resource. Ask yourself, what's the simplest, strongest version I could create inside this box? Design that version. That's not limitation, that's leverage.